everybody, Adriana Cho here with Best Life Realty. Hope you're having a wonderful day. So today, guys, we're going to talk about something that often gets forgotten about and not a lot of people mention until it's time to give it up. So that is earnest money. So earnest money when it comes to a real estate transaction is what we call promise money. So it's very similar to the deposit that you would give on a rental. And it's usually given after your contract is accepted, which is your way of saying, hey, Mr. Seller, this is me putting some skin in the game that I fully intend to move forward with the contract unless something happens through the course of the transaction that causes me to want to cancel the contract. Can't get a loan, inspection, appraisal, variety of everything that could come up during the real estate transaction that can make you want to cancel. But provided nothing else happens, you're putting some skin in the game saying, this is money that I'm putting forth as a promise that I intend to act in good faith and fully continue with the purchase unless nothing happens, of course. Now, when it comes to the amount of earnest money that is required, that is not standard. That is negotiated based on what the seller is requesting, but even if the seller requests a certain amount, if you want to purchase a house and maybe don't have as much money as they're requesting, you can also negotiate that as a part of the contract. So there's no hard and fast rule of there's 500 or 1,000 or 2,000. It varies from transaction to transaction. Now, another thing that often gets confused about earnest money is people that maybe are getting a loan that does not require a down payment are not expecting to have to pay earnest money. Well, that's because earnest money is a part of the real estate transaction, whereas your down payment involves your loan. Now, where it gets kind of sticky is if you do give some kind of earnest money at closing, you can get credit for that at closing of money that you've already given. So that could reduce the amount of down payment or closing costs that you have to pay at closing. So it can be credited to you at closing, but it's realistically, earnest money is independent of your closing costs, as independent of your down payment. So your earnest money is not lost, so to speak, and it's not just free money. It's money that if you give at the beginning of the transaction can be credited to you at the end of the transaction as money that you've already given. So it could reduce, like I said, the amount of earnest money or down payment that you have to have. Now, another thing that people often think of is if I cancel the contract, I am guaranteed to get my earnest money back. That's a very common misconception. And realistically, guys, unfortunately, I hate to tell you, there is no guarantee whatsoever that you will get your earnest money back if you cancel the transaction. There's a lot of different legal things that involve with it, timeline of things, other things that are involved with the real estate contract that are really the determining factors of whether or not you get your earnest money back if you cancel the contract. Another thing that people often think of is they think that there is a set date when the earnest money has to be given. That, of course, is another misconception because there really is no standard date and there's no fixed date of when earnest money has to be given. That, like many other things, is negotiable in the contract. So it could be due 2 days later, 3 days later, 4 days later, you name it. There's no hard and fast rule. So definitely, if you're putting an offer on the house, talk to your real estate professional about the amount of earnest money that is required on the property and talk to them about when you are going to be able to have that money to be able to give. Because the thing is, guys, earnest money is going to be cashed. It gets deposited generally in the account of the title company. So it does get cashed and it does get deposited. So it has to be money that is actually going to be available to be deposited. So it's what we call good funds, so money that's readily available to be deposited and your check is not going to bounce. Another thing about earnest money is when it comes to you purchasing a home with a loan, earnest money is also money that has to be verified. So you can't just take $1,000 that you have cash laying around and use that for your earnest money because cash can't be traced, it can't be verified. You have to have funds that can be verified some way. So whether that's money order. Some places may allow a personal check, a cashier's check, a wire transfer. There has to be a money trail of where that money is coming from, which will definitely be required, like I said, for any loan that you may be getting. Your lender will want to see a copy of the earnest money check and see where it's coming from. So that is just some basic information on earnest money, what it is, why it matters. If you have more specific questions on earnest money, please feel free to give me a call anytime at 970-370-0135. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a wonderful day.